Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review of X-Men Blood Hunt Magic #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. This is a one-shot that is tied into the Blood Hunt event. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Ashley Allen with art by Jesus Herves, colors by Yen Nitro, letters by Travis Lanham. Beautiful cover by Rod Reese. No other beautiful covers you'll see at the end of the video. So let's talk about this tie-in. Now, I've really been enjoying the X-Men tie-ins to Blood Hunt. They're just one-shots, and so far they've picked some of my favorite characters. There's one for Magic, there's one for Psylocke, there's one for Jubilee. Like, those are some of my favorite characters. I believe there's one for Kate Pride maybe coming up in the future. Either way, I'm very excited. So in this issue, after the fall of the House of X, Illyana Rasputin has returned to her homeland to search her soul and steal it for what it comes next. But how will she protect her first home when a vampire army descends on Russia, seeking to turn it into a living hell? She may have been forged in the fires of limbo, but has it prepared her for the blood hunt? So one of my favorite things about this issue is this begins with a little bit of Russian folklore, and I like the approach to that. I think Herves does a really good job at providing that fairy tale like aesthetic. But then we get into the actual blood hunt, and it looks very cool. Magic is one of my favorite characters that I mentioned, and I think if anybody's gonna go into Russia and just combat these vampires, Magic is one of the best people suited for the job. I think, indeed, her preparation in Limbo has gotten ready for something like this. So let's pull up some of the preview art because I think Herves and Nitro do a really good job. Like I mentioned here, this is the first page where we see Illyana being told a folk tale from the land when she was a child. And then we move forward to now where the vampires are attacking these villagers. Illyana finds some kids that are being harassed by the vampires, and things just kind of really escalate from there. She is taken hostage in this, but I think it's part of the plan to ensure that she's able to save as many people as she can. So very cool stuff. A lot of action, as you can see. Herves's actions is really, really dynamic. And it's also quite interesting an approach to fighting here. It's not overly gory, not overly over the top. So I really like the restraint. I think it makes for a better story. So the twist on this is also really fun. I won't give anything away. Just know that everything you've been reading is there for a reason. So Magic really, really comes out on top on this one, and I appreciate a tie-in that it's fun, even if it's not necessary to the main event. This doesn't resolve anything that we're seeing in our main Blood Hunt event. I mean, we are so far away from everything that's going on. But yeah, it's really fun to just stop and check out a character, see what they're doing during all this. So exciting stuff. Really enjoyed this one, as I did with the Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for X-Men Blood Hunt Psylocke #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics, a one-shot tied into the Blood Hunt storyline. So let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Steve Fox with art by Lin Yoshi, colors by Ruth Redmond, letters by Ariana Maher. Plethora of variant covers you'll see at the end of the video as well. So this is one of the Blood Hunt tie-ins that I had been looking forward to the most. I'm a big fan of the character Psylocke. And although she's been through a lot, she's changed a lot. I think this character is still very cool. Let me give you a quick synopsis on this one. And although I don't think this one shot is like a must read for you to understand the rest of the event, I appreciate them doing one shots that are just like, let's check in on some of these characters, especially the X-Men right after the fall of Krakoa. They're scattered all over the world. We've seen already one shot for Magic, a one shot for Jubilee. Now we're checking in on Psylocke. So I appreciate that somehow the Marvel office knows what are some of my favorite characters, probably some of the more popular ones anyways. So in this issue, Ninja versus Vampire, after serving on the front lines in the war against Orcus, Kwannon is enjoying some much well-deserved downtime with her new lover, Great Crow. But when darkness falls across Japan, Psylocke will wield her psionic blade against blood-sucking creatures of legend and faces a foe unlike she's ever seen. An all-new villain emerges in the mayhem of the Blood Hunt. One thing that I've also appreciated is that we're really digging into the folklore of these specific characters, right? The one with magic had a little bit to do with some Russian folklore. The one with Jubilee had a little bit to do with her past as a vampire. And this one, because we are in Japan, we get to see some, I guess, creatures from maybe Japanese folklore or mythology. So, really interesting stuff. There's a lot of action in this. There's a lot of exploring the relationship between Quanon and Greycroak, which is it's not even a character. I don't even know John Greycrow much. Like I don't know what his full power set is. I just know that he looks cool, and Psylocke seems to like him, so that should be enough there. So let's go take a look at the some of the preview art for this. I think Yoshi does a really good job just kind of setting in the tone and the ambience of this. Right, we are a little bit further out the enjoying some time off, well-deserved time off after everything that happened with the fall of Krakoa and the fight with Orcus. But immediately we get into, Quan can never really step away from her duty. I really also love how cool, like, the town looks. Like, when you go to Osaka and there, it just looks very cool. And, of course, all the kind of creatures that come out at night, right? It's not only vampires that are ready to go when the sun is hidden for extended periods of time. So yeah, there goes Psylocke right into the middle of the action. Really, really cool stuff. I really appreciate. I think one of my favorite things here is the coloring as well. Just that aesthetic of kind of like a cyberpunkish kind of aesthetic of Osaka at night. Yeah, I really, really appreciate the look of that. And it really brings some ambience to the story. There's a lot more crazy stuff here too. This one goes all out when it comes to bringing in the monsters and everything that comes out from the shadows. So, like I said, I think it's a cool exploration of all that. So, hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for Werewolf by Night, Blood Hunt #1. This is a one-shot comic bringing in Werewolf by Night. So let's talk about the creative team before we get into the tie-in for the Blood Hunt event. This is written by Jason Liu with Adam Gorham on art, colors by Alex Sinclair, letters by Joe Sabino. Interesting to explore. So there are multiple Werewolf by Night, right? We have, in this case, we have Jake Gomez in this one. So it's not the other Werewolf by Night that you may be more familiar with. I believe Gomez is I think Jake is a newer character. I haven't read much of his stuff though. Let's talk about the creative team. So let's talk about the synopsis of this book. As the Blood Hunt wreaks havoc across the Marvel Universe, one of those affected in the most unexpected ways is Werewolf by Night. Imbued with new abilities, a new look, and a dangerous new direction, this Werewolf by Night is unlike any you've seen or known before. Starring Jake Gomez. In this one tie-in, no Blood Hunt reading order is complete without. I don't know if I agree with that last part of the synopsis. I think although this is an interesting one-shot, it's definitely not required reading. I also feel like the way this feels to me more like a pilot for a new Werewolf by Night series. So, which is fine. I think that part is fine. But it really feels to me like this is let's try out maybe this new series that we want to explore. We'll use the Blood Hunt event as a way to bring this in. So this takes place in an amusement park that's dinosaur themed, so that definitely adds a lot of fun to this. And like I said, Jake's a new character that I'm not too familiar with, so that gives you a lot of leeway to try new things. But it is pretty interesting. Things escalate very quickly. What happens when a group of kids or teens from the area try magic that they really shouldn't be messing with, and then Jake has to step in. But sometimes when he goes into the werewolf mode, he doesn't fully control that. So I will say this feels to me like, although there are vampires in it, the way that it concludes, it feels almost as if it ignores the rest of the Blood Hunt event. So I don't know. That part felt a little disjointed. It doesn't. It just doesn't feel like a Blood Hunt time to me. It just feels like an interesting new book. Like check out this book if you want to follow werewolf. So, but let's talk about some of the art here. I think the art really suits the aesthetic that we're going for here. It's really giving me like almost like "Are You Afraid of the Dark" type of vibes. Whereas it's an interesting setting. It's a little quick story. It's teens messing with things they shouldn't be with. I love the expressions on the characters. Like I think that part really fits the story because the tone's a little bit goofy. Like it definitely amps up, but just coming in from the location, there's definitely something really fun about this book. And then magic happens, but of course things go wrong, and that's really the crux of this, right? Uh, can Jake really help people when he himself he doesn't know how if he's going to control, he doesn't know if he's going to be able to um, take a hold of his powers. That's what he's been there, right? He's training, he's trying to get everything under control. So it's an interesting one shot. I might check out if they do a series with Jake. I might check out the first issue just to see where things are going for. But I really feel like the only downside for this to me was that it said blood hunt on it, but it really kind of ignored the blood hunt of it all. Like I said, there are a few vampires in here, but I don't feel like they're intricate to the plot. This didn't need to have the blood hunt uh tie in thing. So hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu #0. This is the new book from Marvel Comics. Um, let's talk about the creative team, and then I'll get into a few details that I want to talk about with this. So this is written by Jed MacKay with art by Alessandro Capuccio, colors by Rachel Rosenberg, letters by Corey Petit, and of course the team is back together. They've been doing this for a long, long time now, so it's really fun to see them back here. So um, before going into this book will have spoilers for Blood Hunt all the way up to issue #4. So if you haven't read that, make sure to go check that out and then come back and watch this because I have to talk about some of that stuff in order to talk about the book and how my enjoyment. But if you're a fan of the run that Jed MacKay has had with Moon Knight, this is definitely up your alley. So keep that in mind. All right, we're gonna move on. So in this issue, following Mark Spector's triumphant return in Blood Hunt #4, the team behind the acclaimed Moon Knight run continues in a special prelude issue to the new Moon Knight series. So we're gonna have a new series in October, but this is just a little taste of what is to come. This previously unannounced issue follows up Mark's return, and not only is an essential chapter, it's also a perfect starting point for readers who want to jump into one of the hottest modern Marvel sagas. This issue underscores the scope of MacKay's and Capuccio's riveting take on Moon Knight mythos by spotlighting the now iconic crew of the Midnight Mission, shedding light on recent developments and setting the stage for the return of Mark Spector and the new era. So, yeah, this is really interesting. So, first of all, this book was not announced until like the last minute possible. Shops didn't know they were able to order it till like I believe the week before or the week prior to that, something like that, because they didn't want to spoil what was going to happen in Blood Hunt, of course. But yeah, this is great. Khonshu is back. That means that he's brought back his fist. He's as you saw in Blood Hunt #4. But as that, it also means that he's brought back Mark Spector. He's free from the world, and I think that it's really interesting now that he's observing for the first time everything that Mark's done with the Midnight Mission, his crew, everybody that follows him, everything that he's protecting, his focus, like all his priorities. So in this issue, you get to see pretty much you touch on everyone that is part of the run currently, like all the allies, all the enemies, everybody that's had anything to do with this Moon Knight over almost 2 years now, and it's really great. It's really great. Like doesn't only feel like a primer for the next Moon Knight series. It just feels like a reminder of who Moon Knight is supposed to be, at least in this run. Let me pull up some of the Capuccio art because he's one of my favorite artists on Moon Knight. I love the aesthetic here of Khonshu. And then as we move forward with some of the other characters, we just really explore everyone in the family, right? Look at this Hunter's Moon, just fantastic shot, leading the other Moon Knights, leading everything. Let me go back here to the other page. I love here the magnitude and the power of Khonshu, who has now been freed from his prison in Asgard, which was where he had been placed. So yeah, really cool stuff. Really cool covers as well. Yeah, I wasn't even aware this was going to be an issue that was going to be coming out. So I was very pleasantly surprised to see this at the shop. So if you're a fan of the Moon Knight run so far for the past couple of years with McKay and Capuccio and some of the other people that have been working with them, highly recommend you search this out. I believe your shops should be able to order more. Like I said, this was kind of a surprise. So if you didn't get it the first week, you hopefully can get it in the next couple of weeks. So hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we're going to be doing a review for Star Wars Inquisitors #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics and of course Star Wars. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. Uh, First, I want to say I really like the logo, like the Inquisitors with the double-sided saber as the O. I think that's a really cool choice by the designer, which I don't see. Carlos Lau seems to be the designer on this book. Great work there. So this is written by Rodney Barnes with art by Ramon Rosanas, Guru Effects and Colors, letters by Joe Caramagna. The main cover by Nick Bradshaw and Niraj Menon, which I definitely can tell Bradshaw has a very specific style. I really like that. There's a few other covers that you'll see at the end of the video, so stay tuned for those. A quick background on the Inquisitors. Weapons of the Emperor sent out into the galaxy after Order 66 to track down and kill any Jedi who remain. The ruthless Inquisitors are among the most skilled and deadly threats to those who serve the light side of the Force, but there is an elusive knight named Tensu Run who is on Darth Vader's most wanted kill list. So in this issue, the Jedi must die. So yeah, here we are. Are the Inquisitors going to be able to find this Jedi, and what makes him so special to be on that list of Darth Vaders? Right? How did he get on there? So that's kind of the mystery here. One thing I'll say, the tone of the book caught me a little by surprise. As we explore, as we follow the Inquisitors through on this search, there's a lot of the atmosphere of the planets that they go into. It's very bright, very light, which makes sense. I guess they are hunting a Jedi. I I would have expected a story like this to be a little bit more dark and a little bit more gritty, but I think dropping in the Inquisitors with this really dark and brutal aesthetic into more of a peaceful type of place, it really plays well for that tone, and like it highlights what these Inquisitors do. They go into a place, they destroy it, they corrupt it, right? Which is kind of what happens with those red lightsabers. So let me put up some of the preview art so you can see what I'm talking about. This just looks, this planet of Targion just looks like a peaceful village, very reminiscent of where the Mandalorian went on his trip as well. But then you see here, the Empire ships as they're coming in with darkness and their black and red aesthetic, really clashing with the atmosphere of the book here. And even then, just the Grand Inquisitor, stepping on the plants here, just disrupting the environment, right? Coming in, bringing in his own troopers, which I love the design of these troopers. They look great. So yeah, and of course, things are gonna go very badly for anybody that doesn't help them out. Yeah, so Empire tactics, like they stay the same, they remain the same. But this is a very fun book. It's a really interesting look. For the most part, we are following the Grand Inquisitor, and we haven't really seen a lot of the other Inquisitors in this book. But there's a really interesting conversation that Grand Inquisitor has with Vader, and we do finally meet Tenshu Run as well. So I think we're gonna see a little bit more of what motivates him in further issues. So hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for Spider-Man Reign 2, issue number 1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Before we talk about the creative team and this book, uh, my buddy and co-host Jeff and I did a video going over everything that is Spider-Man Reign, the original series. It's a 4-part series that follows Spider-Man 30 years into a possible future. So let's talk about the creative team on this issue before we get into all that. This is written by Carrie Andrews with art by with colors by Brian Reaver, letters by Joe Caramagna. Now we do get a bit of a summary, but as I mentioned, you really get the gist of it from the synopsis. So this is, think of it as the Dark Knight Returns, but with Spider-Man in it. That's, even Carrie Andrews, the creator, has talked about how big of an inspiration that series was for him. But if you want an in-depth look at that, we've linked the video in the description if you want to check it out. Jeff and I had a really fun conversation. So in this issue, Back to the Future, the Amazing Spider-Man's future, that is, award-winning writer and artist Carrie Andrews returns to the world of Spider-Man's dystopian future in the sequel to the landmark genre-defying Spider-Man Reign. And who is this new Black Cat? What tragedies and triumphs await this older, grizzled Peter Parker? Peter isn't the only one who has aged. Wait until you see what happened with a new character that they'll reintroduce somebody here. I don't want to go into spoilers. You probably have seen some spoilers already if you checked out all the covers. But I will say this: Carrie Andrews' style is very gritty, very gruesome. Like, there's a lot of things that are just gross, is the best way to describe them, really. So keep that in mind as you're going into this book. Don't expect that you're gonna get your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. This is not that. Um, I think it's an interesting thing to try to make a sequel for that comic, because I feel like there was kind of a finality that I felt in that issue. But I think Carrie Andrews managed to bring in an interesting concept. I don't know how well it will hold up. I think the first issue really relies a lot on, let's keep doing what we were doing on the first one, up until towards the end, where we really set up the crux of what's going on. So, yeah, let's pull up some of the preview art so you can see exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to Carrie Andrews's aesthetic. And he has many different styles. This is just the style that he's chosen for this. We see a Wilson Fisk. And if you read the first issue, the first series, you know that Fisk had been kind of held against his will and tortured for years, but it looks like he's finally come out to get his revenge, and it is a disgusting one. Yeah, just I love the lettering on this, like all the sounds, everything just really works for that uncomfortable, gross feeling that you want from this. We bring back little the recurring theme of the Itsy Bitsy Spider song. That's kind of how you open up the first book, and it's really interesting to see it kind of go back here. But it touches on the continuation of the song, and then you see a Peter here, and it is a little jarring, especially if you know how the first one ended. But overall, I think Carrie Andrews manages to connect and bring back that same aesthetic that he had in the first series. So yeah, I think if you're a fan of the first series, you're gonna find this interesting. There's a lot of there's a lot of ways that I think Andrews is trying to move the story forward. Some of the things haven't really been fully explained, and maybe they won't ever be fully explained. And I think that's fine, as long as the story that we get after that is it's just interesting and compelling. But yeah, this was kind of a controversial. Yeah, there was a bit of controversy with the first series, and I think that it's fun to go back and explore this to see where what other boundaries can be pushed and what other story beats can be just explored in this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. But if Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for Star Wars Ahsoka #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics and Disney Star Wars. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Rodney Barnes with Steve Cummings on pencils, Wayne Faucher on inks, Rachelle Rosenberg on colors, letters by Travis Lanham, beautiful cover by Devin Nakayama, and then we'll see a few more covers at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. This is actually pretty straightforward. I'll give you a synopsis, but this is just an adaptation of the Ahsoka TV show. Star Wars and Marvel have been doing this for pretty much all their series. Uh, and if you want to relive that story, this is a fun way to do it because sometimes the comics allow the team to tell the story and add a little bit of spice to it, right? There's a few more things they could do that are probably very difficult to do in live action. I do appreciate that Steve Cummings isn't necessarily going for like, let's make everyone look exactly photorealistic, right? I don't think that's a concern. It's more about the feel of the story. So, but if you're not familiar with the story, after the fall of the Empire, Ahsoka Tano stalks the galaxy for Grand Admiral Thrawn, a valuable prisoner, escapes the New Republic custody. A search for answers reunites two old friends, and the villainous Morgan Elspeth returns along with two new mysterious Force users, Balin Skull and his apprentice Shin Hati. Will the rebels be able to track down their lost comrade, Ezra Bridger? So yeah, there's a lot going on here. But like I said, I think Rodney Barnes definitely at least captures the essence of the story that was told, and this is pretty much almost beat for beat the first episode. So I assume that we're gonna see some of the big beats, and I'm actually pretty excited to see maybe like issue #4, issue #5. They were pretty cool. So yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes from here. So like I said, sometimes they add a little bit of extra stuff, but not too much. But let's go take a look at some of the preview art. And as I mentioned, Cummings and Foucher, like they're not going for photorealism. They just want to make sure that we get the vibes of everything. This is the opening scene where Balin and Shin Hati go in to free a prisoner, and they take over the ship. Right? Things get pretty violent very quickly. As you can see here, I do think it's interesting to see the lightsabers colored in the comic because they are a lot more orange here than I originally thought in the series. Like they're not actually red, right? These aren't Sith sabers. These two are something different, something completely new. But yeah, really cool sequence here. Very much like, you know, love seeing the sound effects for the guns, the pew pew. And then we catch up with Ahsoka as she's at the temple, and that's kind of where we're gonna leave things up for the preview. Like I said, if you watch the show, you're gonna get a very similar story. So maybe you want to check it out once it's collected to see some of the highlights. Also, if you're a big fan of the series, you can get some really cool covers with Ahsoka, with Sabine, with a lot of the characters that are part of this. I'm sure there'll be a lot more, but we get some really cool ones in this first issue. So. Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we're going to be doing a review for The Incredible Hulk Blood Hunt #1. This is a new book from Marvel Comics. Let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. We have this story written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, who's writing the ongoing Hulk, with art by Danny Earls, colors by Matthew Wilson, letters by Corey Petit. So let's talk about the book. In this issue, of course, a Blood Hunt tie-in. If you're not caught up with Blood Hunt, you can probably still read this. This is an adjacent story. It doesn't really mesh into the larger story that's going into Blood Hunt. It's just more like what's going on with the Hulk while the whole Blood Hunt thing is going on. So let's see. We have what lies beneath Hulk and Banner's quest to save Charlie's soul leads them through the Old Town West in the town of Old Tucson. Population of 1. But the last man in town has a heck of a story to tell. Before the night ends, Hulk and Banner will learn that there's a lot more than meets the eye in all Tucson, and that there's a lot more under the desert floor than either of them could have guessed. Don't miss the spine-chilling chapter of Blood Hunt event. So, look, we're gonna be pretty straightforward here. You probably are assuming that it's vampires, and it's vampires because it's a blood hunt event. But what I really enjoyed was how they can take a little story out of context here with the Hulk and just give you a one-shot adventure. I think, um, you know, Kennedy Johnson really found a fun way to do that. It's just like a little horror short with the Hulk, and it's really cool. And I think Danny Earls is drawing some really funky stuff. The transformation from the Hulk is like the way they're doing it currently in this run and the way it's done here. It is very grotesque, and I think that's definitely what they're going for. So it's very cool to see. So let's take a look at some of the preview art. As you can see here, you meet a young boy in Arizona 50 years ago who's running up. I really like the outlines in red because that's kind of like giving you the blood hunt vibes and the really setting the mood for what's ahead to come, right? Um, and he's running. He says that there's something underground, some devils or something. Oh, and then we finally catch up with Bruce Banner. I love that he's walking around with a Captain America backpack and a little Hulk little figure tied into him. I don't. I'm not current on the run, so I don't know what the relationship is between the Hulk and Banner at this time. But this is all. This is definitely the whole mood and the atmosphere of the book. It's really well captured in the first few preview pages. But I love the red in the margins to tell you that something is afoot. So yeah, it's a fun story. What happens when the Hulk encounters some vampires, and how does the town of Tucson play into all that? So hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for The Avengers number 16. This is a new book from Marvel Comics and a Blood Hunt tie-in, of course, written by Jed MacKay. So let's talk about the creative team. As I mentioned, we have writer Jed MacKay with art by C.F. Villa, colors by Federico Blee, letters by Corey Petit. Really cool cover by Joshua Cassara in Guru Effects. So let's talk about this book, which is one of my favorite tie-ins into Blood Hunt. I think this one, anything written by Jed MacKay really, really ties into the main story. So in this issue, Baron Blood strikes. Captain America must battle a vampire overrun Hydra. Will Cap's ragtag group of heroes be able to handle Baron Blood's army of vampires? And what about rescuing the hordes of civilian prisoners? Plus, what's next for this Avengers emergency response team? So the team right now is comprised of Captain America, Hercules, Hazmat, Hawkeye, and Quicksilver, and they are fighting vampire Nazis in a helicarrier. So, like, what else would you want from a story? It's really cool. I really like it. I really have been enjoying this story. It's silly. It's weird. It's crazy, and it doesn't feel like it is like super integral to Blood Hunt, but it's so much fun. And I think that Jed MacKay with this new team is actually setting up something for the future. So I'm really excited. I would love to see an Avengers book that's kind of like two tracks where we're following two different teams. Maybe even a new Avengers book. We haven't had a new Avengers in a while, or something like that. That we get to play around with these characters a little bit more because they're actually kind of fun. So let's go up and take a look at some of the preview art here. We see Captain America's trying to steer the helicarrier above the clouds that are covering, the dark energy that's covering the sun, which of course is definitely the best way to fight vampires because, of course, it is. And it's also pretty symbolic of the Captain America. Like, he brings hope, he brings the light back into the darkness. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, there's some great fights. CF Villa, his art is so dynamic, really good when it comes to action sequences, when it comes to these little, like, we're fighting but we're also having some dialogue, and also the layouts really help with keeping track of everything that's going on. I love this panel of Hercules just like chunking some vampires right off the helicarrier, Kate blowing them up with some fire arrows, and of course Quicksilver doing what he does best, just throwing these guys, pushing them around, collecting them. Yeah, this is great. This is a lot of fun. I've been really enjoying Jed MacKay's Avengers and pretty much all of his writing. Like, I think he's a fantastic writer. And I understand why he's doing so many books at the same time, because I think that his writing is something that appeals to the masses, me being one of them. So, yeah, really cool covers at the end of the video. Stay tuned for those. So, if you have read this, let me know what did you think about this issue. Let me know what you think about the Blood Hunt event overall. Hello, everyone. Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for The Ultimates #2. This is a new book from Marvel Comics, but let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This book is written by Dennis Camp with art by Juan Frigeri, colors by Federico Blee, letters by Travis Lanham. We have a main cover by DK Rowan and Niraj Menon, and also some other covers you'll see at the end of the video. As you can see here, we have a roster for The Ultimates with Iron Lad, Tony Stark, Reed Richards, Captain America, Steve Rogers, Thor, Sif, Giant Man, and Wasp, who joined in the first issue. So the mission for the Ultimates is very, very clear. The Maker has undone a lot of the heroes that should be around. So how do we fix that? Well, we have to track them down and make them become heroes again, rescue them, allow them to have their powers. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. In this issue, though, like the Ultimates are literally on a path to save America. I think one of the cool things that Dennis Camp manages to do here is Steve Rogers is trying to figure out what he's missed while he was on ice, right? As the story goes forever for him, he's been put on ice. He was frozen for a long time. He missed out a lot. But also in this issue, the Avengers are storming the White House because they need to rescue, like I said, America. And I'm gonna leave it at that. So yeah, I really enjoyed this issue. I think the art, Frigeri's art, is really cool, especially being able to switch back and forth with Captain America relearning the history of the country in the world, but also seeing like the fight and the action sequences. So let me pull up some of that preview art here. And as I mentioned, we have action sequences. We have the Ultimates roster. I like that everyone's outfits are getting a little better, right? When we last met the Wasp and Ant-Man, they were only exterminators. And then we see here earlier Captain America going back to learn about the history of the world and how the Maker had influenced a lot of those events. And then we see here, of course, Midas and the Maker, like everything just the way the world and the country is not the way it's supposed to be. So it is up to the Ultimates to go in there and fix it. I love that here, wearing the old armor. I like it. It's even talked about how this is like a collector's armor from the original Iron Man, who was Tony's dad, Anthony Stark. So yeah, very exciting stuff. I really am enjoying this run. I think Dennis Camp is able to tell some really fun stories in a really interesting way, while still, bringing up that excitement and building up this world, this ultimate world that we're following throughout all these series. Now, all these series are pretty much standalone at the time. There's not a lot of connective tissue yet, which is fine. I think it's great for the first couple of trades to let's leave everything out there. Like, right, we're not ready. We have a few months till the Maker comes back from the time that he's been trapped in. So, yeah, really exciting stuff. I'm really enjoying this. Dennis Camp has yet to disappoint me on anything. So, and of course, Juan Frigeri's art just really manages to put all this in a presented in a really fun way. So, hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review for X-Men #1. From the ashes, we have a new beginning. But let's talk about the creative team before we get into this book. This is written by Jed MacKay, who is writing about half of the books over at Marvel. JP Mayer on inks, with art by Ryan Stegman, Marte Gracia on colors. And of course, as it is a #1 and an X-Men book, we have a plethora of covers, some of which you can see at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that. In this issue, From the Ashes, Krakoa is gone, Orcus has fallen, so obviously spoilers if you're not caught up. But the X-Men remain, as always. Cyclops leads because that is what he does. Beast builds because that's what he does, unless he's being a war criminal. And from their new home in Alaska, the X-Men raise a flag of defiance. Mutant business is their business. Join Cyclops, Beast, Magneto, Psylocke, Kid Omega, Temper, Magic, and the Juggernaut as new forces in the world move into position, battling for a destiny and a philosophy of the mutant species. So, um, this is a very interesting team. I don't know how this would have come to be. I'm sure there's going to be an explanation as to why we have this specific roster, but right off the bat, I really like Magic is one of my favorite mutants. Psylocke, Kid Omega, Juggernaut, of course, always fun to see around. And I don't know much about Temper, other than she's got hot cold power, a little think Todoroki, if you will, if you watch My Hero Academia. And then of course we have Cyclops, who's been just kind of been kicking ass for the past few years. He's got a real nice. He's got a real nice just his persona, his career, his the view of the public looks really cool. And like Cyclops has really had kind of an upgrade when it comes to like the fandom. I think people like him a lot, especially after the X-Men 97 cartoon. So we follow two different stories in this issue, which I think are setting up things very interestingly. We have in Alaska, we have the base. This is the new base. It's an old factory where they used to build Sentinels. The mutants have kind of taken that and made it their headquarters with everything that they need. We have a local law enforcement agent going in just to do the rounds. I guess this is something, and I really think that it's a very smart way to give us a little bit of the exposition, right? Beast has given her a tour of the facility as local law enforcement. I guess the X Men are trying to stay on a friendly note with them, but always wary. And of course, for a person that may never have seen mutants, and this is where I think Ryan Stegman comes in. A lot of his the facial reactions that this police person has, uh, like she reacts to Beast's appearance and Glob. We also see Zorn in the book, which is crazy because I haven't seen Zorn in forever. So, but let's take a look at some of the art. Ryan Stegman is it's a legend, and I think he's definitely adding his own style to the X-Men book. Now, is this something that everybody's gonna enjoy? I don't know. I don't know if you like Ryan Stegman's art. I think you're gonna like this. He definitely has evolved from his time in Inhumans and in Spider-Man, all through Venom. So like definitely has changed a lot of things. But I really enjoy it. I like it a lot, and I haven't really seen anything otherwise. So here's the base. Here's Beast with the police woman who shows up, and then we catch in with the X-Men who are going to be baptized by fire as they go into their first mission to rescue some mutants that are in trouble. I like the dynamic of the team. We see here Magic and the Juggernaut playing rock paper scissors to see who's going to lead the charge. Of course, Cyclops as the leader, he's messed up a lot, and I think we can see that, especially with Quentin, just kind of give him a lot of shit. Really interesting to have two psychics on the team, and neither of them are Jean or Emma Gray or Emma Frost. So that's an interesting choice with Jed McKay. But I hope that we see a little bit more of why Jed McKay chose this specific roster, and how things are going to play out. What role does Magneto will come to play here? Right, he just came back to life recently. He was an integral part of taking down Orcus at the end of the Krakoan Age. So yeah, very cool stuff. So if you enjoyed this issue, let me know what you thought about it. And I guess if you read this issue, if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. But if you read it, let me know what you thought about this. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff here on the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.